Hey guys, it's Benjamin with Benjamin's Exotics, and today's morph guide is going to be all about the one and the only cinnamon ball python. So before we go in depth about the cinnamon gene, talking about how it reacts with other morphs, and of course how to identify it, I want to talk to you guys about something that most people don't really seem to understand, or most people just don't, see in general, which is that cinnamon is actually the most misidentified gene ever in ball python morph history of any morph on the planet. Now you might be thinking to yourself, it's something like, normals kind of look like cinnamon, so people don't know them from that, and that's not at all the case, even though that of course does happen. So let's kind of do a little history type lesson, okay? If we go back 10-15 years in the whole ball python craze, there were two main pinnacles, okay? Of course there's all kinds of stuff people want to produce, but two big things were of course a completely white snake and a completely black snake. Now with the completely white snake, we already know we can do that with Super Mojave, Super Lesser, the Russo complex, Super Fires, so the black-eye leucistics. You can even do albino and exantic to get these snows. There's all kinds of ways to make white snakes, but for black snakes it's a little bit different. The only ways you had about 10 or 15 years ago was a cinnamon to a cinnamon. You actually can produce a super cinnamon or a black pastel to black pastel to produce a super black pastel, both of which are black snakes. Now as of pretty recently, there's also a gene called a mahogany that doesn't have any kinking problems, and you breed a mahogany to mahogany, you get a super mahogany, which is called a summa. Now, like I just mentioned, there's no kinking problems. With the super cinnamons and the super black pastels, you do get problems with babies being kinked when you produce a clutch. Now, to try to combat that, people started breeding cinnamons to black pastels in kind of an attempt to, since cinnamon and black pastel are different morphs, when bred together, they do actually also produce a completely black snake. So people have the thought of, well, they're different genes, so maybe we won't get as much kinking as we do with other, just either breeding a cinnamon to cinnamon or a black pastel to black pastel. Now this has been pretty debunked, and people have done lots of cinnamon to black pastel breedings, and you still can get kinks, and it doesn't seem to be any less common than if you breed just a cinnamon to a cinnamon or a black pastel to a black pastel. But that was a myth that was going around, and people wanted to do that to produce completely black snakes. And most of these people were either pretty experienced or beginners. Now let's look at the beginners. So they go out and they buy, like let's say a cinnamon female and a black pastel male. They breed these together, and you're not going to get all black snakes, of course. You're going to get roughly 25% of the cinnamon and black pastel mix. You're going to get, which is the completely black snake, you're going to get 25% cinnamon, 25% black pastel, and 25% normal. So they're producing these snakes. Normals are easy to identify. The super black pastels, or I should say the combination between the black pastel and the cinnamon, completely black, easy to identify. But then let's look at the cinnamons and the black pastels. These can range in variety a lot. People are producing a bunch of these, they're looking at them and they're going, well, it kind of looks like the mom, kind of looks like the dad, and they're kind of mislabeling these. And of course, a lot of animals through that process, whether they be cinnamons or black pastels, actually got labeled the other. So if it's a cinnamon, got labeled as a black pastel. If it's a black pastel, accidentally got labeled as a cinnamon. Now people go out and they sell these in the market, and this is enough of a problem as it is, but let's then look at that. Now not every person that buys a snake is going to breed them, of course. Most people just want them as pets, but let's say that someone goes out and they misidentify and they sell a cinnamon as a black pastel, and a new breeder comes on the scene and buys that. Now every single snake that breeder produces from that, whether it be male or female, is also going to be misidentified. And when that breeder goes to sell those misidentified animals, guess what? Other breeders that get those misidentified snakes as well are also going to be selling misidentified babies. And that has led to today, whether you look at Morph Market, you look at a bunch of reptile shows, just go through and look at different vendors, and you'll see all the time misidentified snakes, either a cinnamon labeled as a black pastel or the other way around, a black pastel labeled as a cinnamon. Again, this isn't anything to do really with identifying them, but I think it's just really interesting to see how this problem was created. And again, I've never gone up to someone and been like, hey buddy, all the snakes you're selling are actually black pastels, or all the snakes you're selling are actually cinnamons. I just don't think that's a great thing to do to a breeder. I mean, they already have enough on their table with, you know, selling animals, breeding animals. No reason to add that much stress on there. But black pastel does change things in a different way than cinnamon does. Like with banana, black pastel is going to bring in a more dark lavender on average. Cinnamons are more light lavender as adults, and a little bit more busy with banana, but then cinnamon reacts differently with spider than black pastel. So there's just a bunch of different variations. So if you're buying and you're trying to produce as like a hobbyist breeder, it is probably pretty important to know whether you're working with a black pastel or a cinnamon. And if you're able to develop this skill set and actually be able to tell a cinnamon from a black pastel, I guarantee it will help you out a lot in the future. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at just a standard base morph cinnamon, and also we can pair that to a normal and just kind of show the differences between the two morphs. So again, here is, as in all videos, we'll show a normal first, just to give you guys a fresh look at what a normal kind of looks like. There we go. That is Zucchini, my big normal male. Again, really quite, I mean, normal looking, very nice, but you know, we just have like kind of like the brown and the black going along this guy's back, very pretty normal. Now, I'm actually going to take him out, and we're going to use him for today's video, and I just got all the bedding in the water. Now, that has to be cleaned, but if we go ahead and we put him right there, I'm actually going to put him next to the cinnamon, because the cinnamon is enough of a brown color that I think it's going to be a little bit too close for you guys to just kind of compare, you know, with different clips in the video. So if we actually put these guys next to each other, it'll hopefully make the entire difference a lot more clear. And I'm actually going to have to stand on this chair to kind of compensate for this height. So as you can see, here we have a normal and here we have the cinnamon. And as you can see right off the bat, if we can kind of get rid of this sort of reddish color, and she's hissing a little bit, pretty easy to see the difference. So first of all, if we look at the brown coloration, again, we're maybe not getting the best lighting, you can see she's more of a dark cinnamon brown, whereas your normals, again, they can range. You can have some dark normals as well, but normals are normally going to be a little bit more of this kind of crisp, nice brown color. These guys are darker. Secondly, as you can see on the back, now this can, again, there's always variability, and you're not going to get all cinnamons going to be as black on the back as she is, but on average your cinnamons are going to have a lot more black going along the back, and not only are they going to have more black, but you're actually going to see blushing as well. These guys used to actually be called cinnamon pastels, and that was because, just like a pastel ball python, you can actually see on the black we have that blushing right there, which is something you don't get nearly as much on like the black pastels and other morphs. But hopefully, if the camera will focus, you can see, come on, all that blushing along that snake's back. And that is really quite incredible. When you put that with things like banana, that really interacts well. Now, we can also look at the side of this snake. Now, when we think of a cinnamon, you probably don't think of bright yellow colors, but if we actually look at the side of this girl, you can actually see right there, just a few spots, right there, right there, right there. Just like a pastel, we also have these really, really nice, almost greenish, yellowish colors going along the side of the snake. Very interesting. Now, you will get this on normals, but it's not going to be nearly the same shade. So we can kind of see it's literally like a greenish tint. The camera is not throwing this off at all. That's literally what it looks like in real life. It's actually doing a pretty good job of being honest, but all this blushing and it turns into like this green color. If we look at the normal, you'll see they have yellow on their sides, kind of like that. I mean, the normals are going to have like some yellow, sometimes even an orange as an adult on the sides, but see, it's going to be yellow. It's not like this really, really vibrant, bright green, which is actually pretty incredible on the sides. I mean, just take a look at that. That contrast against the brown is just really, really quite interesting. Now let's also look at the belly of these snakes. So if we look at a belly on a normal, right, pretty standard. Again, you can have a pretty good variability, but on most of your normals, you're going to have just like that, kind of this checkerboarding pattern down the belly in quite a lot of black. Now, it can also range on your cinnamons, but on average, if we look at the belly of a cinnamon, most of the time you're going to have a little bit of gray freckling, kind of like that, but it's not going to be in that checkerboard pattern, and it's definitely not going to be as much as a normal. And I've actually seen some cinnamons that are completely white on the belly, so definitely a reduction in pattern of the gray on the belly. And then also, let's take a look at these snakes' heads. So they are probably not going to make this very easy, but if we actually look at the heads on these snakes, we also can see a lot darker of a tone. So if we look at the normal head, kind of like that, if he'll stay still, which of course he's not going to. Come on, buddy. We just want to see your head for a second.
Just like that. Pretty standard, a little bit of yellow, pretty nice color. And we look at the lips, basically white lips, a little bit of gray maybe, but pretty white, pretty standard. Look, now if we take a look at a Cinnamon's head, and she is a lot less tame, so she's not going to let me just hold her head like that to show the camera. But if we go ahead and we look at the head on a Cinnamon, first of all, a lot darker in color. The eye bands going behind the eye are actually going to be normally a little bit thinner, and also that darker cinnamon color. And when we look at the lips, okay, again, just like on a pastel, instead of being yellow, we're actually going to see, if it'll get a good shot on the camera, wow, she is really just a little bit triggery today. If we look at the lips on this girl, come on, just like that. You can actually see on the bottom and top, she actually has gray. Now, if you remember back to the pastel morph guide video, the pastels have basically this highlighter yellow, which is, again, one of the reasons these guys are called, or used to be called, cinnamon pastels, was because of those similarities. And then also, if you look one more time, I don't want to stress her out too much, but kind of like that yellow that we saw on the side, you can also get, she's really not having it today. If we look on the side, you can also see we kind of get that weird greenish yellow color along her neck and a little bit under her eye, which is really, really quite interesting. Now, unlike most other morphs, talking pastel, enchi, most of your basically lighter morphs, these guys, like your Mojaves, Calicos, stuff like that, are actually going to have completely black eyes, a lot like your normal. So you're not going to be able to look at the eye pigment and really be able to tell. Again, look back to a normal. Most of them are going to have just basically pitch black, really beautiful eyes. Nothing too fancy, but if anything, these guys will have a little bit darker of eyes, because some normals actually have kind of a partial hazel type color on the top, but not the entire eye color, and definitely not going to be a huge difference between a normal and a cinnamon. Now, the last thing I want to talk about, which is really the main difference between these two, big league, is the pattern and coloration. Now, we already talked about the back and how your cinnamons are going to have a lot more black on the back, even if it's not a complete black back like this girl, with just a few exceptions on her tail. What we're looking for is the alien heads. So like with your normal, you're going to have quite a wide variety of alien head patterns, you know, flavors, all kinds of stuff like that. You know, you can see reduction like that, more of a keyhole type thing, double alien heads, which are pretty common, you know, kind of merged together. You're going to have quite a variation in your normals. Whereas in your cinnamons, normally, and again, I say normally because you always get exceptions, you're basically going to have this reduced alien head look. It reminds me partially of Mojave with how they can sometimes disconnect from the root and the base of where that would have started, but generally they're going to be a little bit more reduced. You can see on the neck, we get a little bit more busy of pattern, and going down the side of this girl, we actually can see some really weird alien head things, but they're not going to be nearly as crazy as things like black pastel and other morphs like that, and they're normally going to be a lot more reduced than like your normal. Like you can see on this side, she actually has some pretty crazy alien head stuff, you know, going on, but if you look on this side, most of them are reduced to just one alien head with one, what I call a porthole, like on a boat, just like that, going down her side. So pretty reduced, and that all has to do with the increased black on the back, the increased blushing on the sides, and all of that come together to make this really pretty and really quite powerful morph, which we call the cinnamon ball python. Now, like I said, these guys are a very, very powerful gene, and I think it's something that isn't underrated, but they definitely don't get the appreciation that they deserve. These guys are just great. You put these to banana, coral glow, and all of this black on the back is going to turn to a purple. You can put this to clown combos and stuff like that to darken things up, and also what this reacts really well with, at least what I think, is making a completely black snake. Now, I'm not a big fan of breeding cinnamon to cinnamon, and that's not what I mean when I say to produce a completely black snake, but when we take like a mahogany to a mahogany, which is a Suma, when we produce the snake, which is a super mahogany, which is the only way really that we know right now to produce snakes without kinks, we basically get the snake that's kind of black but not really. But when you throw that cinnamon gene in there, again, the cinnamon is a darkening gene, so we're basically going to get this really, really pitch black snake, and this just goes well with so many things. I hope to add a lot more cinnamon to my collection in the future, and like you can see, it's a relatively basic morph, it's a relatively standard morph, nothing too special, and by itself it's really not that impressive when compared next to a normal. However, when you start taking this into other genes, you can really get some incredible stuff. And honestly, for me, I do just like the simple look of a nice, big, healthy cinnamon ball python any day. And again, I love the look of the normal, but man, the cinnamon adds all all of this black on the back. Really nice colors, like I said, on the sides. I mean, just look at all that yellow and like green. Really, really incredible on the cinnamon ball python.
So overall, I hope you guys did enjoy and most importantly benefit from today's video. Again, I love the cinnamon gene, and as more and more stuff gets produced with GHI, banana, clown, even some stuff with pied, the popularity of the cinnamon gene is only going to increase more and more as time goes on. If you guys did enjoy today's video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.